Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Want More from Your PMS? Look to the Power of the Cloud, brought to you by Hotel Management and sponsored by SkyTouch Technology. My name is Hillary Graff, and I'll be your moderator today. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. The audio is streamed live over the internet, so please make sure your computer speakers are turned on and your volume is turned up. If you'd like to download the slide deck, please click the Files button at the lower left of your screen. Following the presentation, I will moderate a Q&A session. You may submit a question at any time during the webinar by clicking the Q&A button in the lower left of your screen. The webinar is being recorded, and tomorrow you will each receive an email with instructions on how to download the presentation and rewatch it for future reference. We encourage you to stay with us until the conclusion of the webinar, as SkyTouch Technology is generously awarding a $250 American Express gift card to one of our attendees. All attendees staying with us through the entire webinar will be eligible for the drawing. Turning to our speakers, we have assembled an excellent panel who will share keen insight on our subject, and by the time we're done, we all should know a lot more about leveraging the power of a cloud-based PMS. It is now my pleasure to introduce our panelists, who I'll be naming in the order they are presenting. Our first speaker is Steve Baggett, General Manager of the Cobblestone Hotel and Suites in Newton, Illinois. Before joining the hospitality industry, Steve spent nearly 20 years in customer service as a manager for large retail companies. Our second speaker is Larry Hall, Managing Director of Trillium Services Group. Larry has more than 35 years of leadership experience in global, high-growth technology and service-based organizations that serve the hospitality industry. He recently served as the President and CEO of Parr Springer Miller Systems, Inc., a leading provider of integrated guest-centric hospitality management solutions to hotels, resorts, spas, and casinos worldwide. Rounding out our panel is Susan Ghemawat, Vice President of Revenue and Channel Strategy for HVMG. In this role, she is responsible for optimizing revenues and profits by driving innovation across customer segments and products, industry systems and data, revenue management processes, and training. Susan has over 20 years of hospitality and airline experience, and prior to HVMG, she worked at Denny & Hospitality, Starwood, American, and Delta Airlines. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Steve to get this presentation started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Baggett. I'm currently the General Manager of the Newton Cobblestone Hotel and Suites. My location currently has 37 rooms, 2 of which are hot tub suites and 1 extended stay suite. We equip all our rooms with flat screen TVs, DVD players, microwaves, refrigerators, and free Wi-Fi. We also have a full service bar, gaming room / casino room, and an indoor hot tub and suite. Now that I've told you about my location, let's talk a little bit about property management services and how we utilize it at our location. We're currently using SkyTouch, which is a wonderful, easy-to-use PMS system. During this speech, I will speak to you about the phenomenal revenue management capabilities, how it's an easy-to-learn, intuitive system, the unrivaled mobile functions, boosted connectivity, and communications with the hotel associates. This allows us, PMS system, to set up rates based upon our occupancy level. This way you are able to lower rates and raise rates based upon the busyness of your hotel. It gives you instant control of your prices. For example, if our occupancy level reaches a 75% or higher, the PMS system will automatically increase our rates by $10, and if the occupancy grows below 20%, then the rates will decrease by $10. This will let you adjust it to better get the revenue that you need for your hotel, and this is all customizable. You can customize it to either go by dollar amount or percentage. Our system will also link with travel agents so that the prices will automatically change on their sites as well within the hour. You can also set up corporate accounts, which at our current location is extremely important because the majority of our clientele is corporate guests. This will allow the front desk to give the guests the rates that are assigned to their corporate account. At my location, we give all corporate account guests a 25% fixed discount on all rooms when they set up an account with us. Depending on how many rooms that we receive from this account, we will either reduce or increase the rates to help better our revenue management. You can use these accounts to track down how many rooms that account has used on a quarterly, monthly, or yearly basis, so you can adjust the rates to get the best revenue for yourself and the best deals for your customers, like I mentioned before. You will see where your business is coming from, either from the corporate accounts or from transient, so you as a manager can realize where you need to spend the majority of your time to be able to maximize all occupancy within your hotel. You are able to look at your past occupancy level. This will give you the tool to adjust the rates to increase revenue and to plan ahead for your busy nights. We'll also give you a way of telling customers what your revenue is, or what your rates are at that time. So if they want to go ahead and book their rooms now while we're slow, they can get that reduced rate. And so if occupancy does pick up, then the rates would increase. So of course they would have to pay a little more, so they don't miss out on great deals. It allows you to be strategic when planning out the months for your hotel. This way, the future availability is at the fingertips of yours and the associates, so you can get the great rates for that particular day. This allows you to capitalize on your revenue. You're able to run statistic reports for the day. This will show you everything that's going on at your hotel, what the rates are for the day, the number of guests in the hotel, number of arrivals, number of departures, and the current room status. There are tons of reports that you can run with your PMS system, so I won't bore you with telling you about all of them or explaining them, but it's extremely important that you know how to read these reports. A perfect example is on one of our reports, I was able to pull up that the Newton location had a 9% increase in 2016, while the average was only 4%. The report from the PMS system that we use with SkyTouch allowed me to exactly see where my increases came from. I was able to utilize this tool to see that the majority of my business came from corporate guests and that my transient sales were down. So that with the transient sales being down, I put a little more focus for the 2017 on Expedia and travel agent accounts, so I can try to get more people in that are coming in just for visiting family and stuff like that. The reports are user-friendly. Each report that the front desk associate has access to are easy to read and understand. This allows the front desk associate to know exactly where they need to spend their time for the day. The PMS system that we use at our location, like I said, is user-friendly. Each tab that you use is easy to find, and you can customize it. On our homepage, the manager can customize the home screen to be set up to what works for your particular location. Also, the Help Center will walk you through step-by-step on how to do any task that is available through your property management system. Our property management system, SkyTouch, has a 24/7 staffed help desk that's here to assist us with any issues or questions that the staff may have. Not only will they help you fix the issue, but they tell you how to fix it. So in the future, you will be able to fix it yourself. And so it's a training one-on-one experience. The actual process of making reservations and checking in guests and processing other sales is a step-by-step process. It breaks through each step, making it easier for our new associates to learn the system. Go to the next slide, please. Starting and ending shifts are extremely easy. There's not a whole lot of steps or reports for the front desk to do, so this step-by-step process will make mistakes far and less between, and it will also alert the associates if there's any mistakes made. So if they're closing out their shift and they close it out $10 short, the system will automatically prompt and tell them, are they sure they want to proceed, giving them the opportunity to find their mistakes before they hit yes. This will cut down on mistakes and allow the manager to focus more on customer needs instead of fixing mistakes. After the end of the day, you will also run a night audit report. This will actually close out your business day. The property management system has made this an easy step, and the reports are self-explanatory and explains everything that you have done for the day. So if there was a mistake that you find when you were closing out your system, the search functions make it easier for you to find this mistake and quicker and easier to fix. I personally love this part of the system because I can find any mistakes that were made in a matter of moments instead of spending hours upon hours trying to find this mistake. And this will allow me to manage my time more wisely, and as everyone knows, in management of a hotel, that can be extremely rough. The PMS system is mobile. You can either use your laptop, tablet, or cell phone to access the PMS system. This is important to remember, though, when using a mobile device, that you ensure that these devices are secured, because guest info is on these PMS systems, and you want to make sure that you are not releasing that information to anybody else. I'm seeing on the notes that I'm having you guys are having issues hearing me. I'm hoping I'm coming okay on this end. The great thing about being mobile is that if there are any issues that the front desk associates are not able to resolve, you can sign into your home and fix these issues. No more of having to drive to the hotel to fix something that you can do from the comfort of your own home. In the hotel business, we can fix issues right away and ensure that our guest is taken care of. With a lot of hotels that are in smaller communities or are shorthanded when it comes to management, sometimes the general manager is on call 24/7. So with this mobile PMS system, I can fix things from the comfort of my own home. Also, if the front desk loses power or if the internet goes down, you can have a tablet or their smartphone to ring up guest sales or to check in guests. We personally at this location have a tablet that runs off of my cell phone data, and this is used for such an occasion. We used this up to 10 times in the year 2016. So if the PMS system was not mobile friendly, I would not have been able to use this, and I would have lost customer sales or would have had lost people from not being able to check them in. Also, with it being mobile, when I walk the hotel, I'm able to use my tablet to assist with either checking in guests or taking a reservation over the phone and marking rooms clean. I use my tablet on a daily basis at my hotel, so I find the mobility of the PMS system as its greatest feature. When there are only associates when I'm the only associate at the hotel, I could be walking down rooms and all of a sudden the phone rings. If I'm on the second level and I get stopped by a guest, it could take me up to 5 minutes to get down there to that front desk, and that time that guest is having to be on hold. I find that since I have the tablet, I can answer any questions that they may have, I can give them a rate, or I can go ahead and make that reservation for them so they don't have to wait. This not only helps the customers with getting great service, but it also helps me with managing my time. On the home screen of the PMS system is what's on our system is called what's community board. This is a great way of communicating to the staff on items that need to be brought to their attention. The features can be made where the associates can also write on the community board or only the general manager. I like to use this feature to list upcoming events that everyone should be made aware of, changes in policies and procedures or pricing, and daily tips on customer service. The most important use of this feature is to leave notes for your staff, thanking them and letting them know how much you appreciate the hard work that they do. With the PMS, you can make notes on also guest profiles. This can be done to alert the front desk of special requests for the guest or to make notes for the front desk to follow for that guest. For an example would be if you have a large group coming in, they're going to need assistance with their luggage, so you want to be able to help them do that. Guests might have a hard time hearing, so you want to make sure that you're speaking clearly. Or you might have a guest that's here on a honeymoon, so you want to make sure that you either put a card in their room congratulating them or you do a one-on-one congratulations to them. So to wrap things up with the property management system, it's essential to have this system and running a successful hotel. It's easy to use, so the staff will love it. So it's easy to train new staff. Its reports are user-friendly, so it'll make the manager's job easier, which I must admit makes me extremely happy. The mobility of it to ensure that there's no time that you will not be able to take care of your guests which is the most important when it comes to customer service. Because as we all know, a happy customer means happy staff, and happy staff means a happy manager. I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen to me. If for any reason, if you would have any questions, you feel free to contact me at any time, and I'd be more than happy to help you. I can assist you with answering questions on why this top quality property management service is a necessity, or to assist you with processing or reading any of the reports that you may have. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Hillary.
Yes, Steve, thank you so much. Great presentation. It's now my pleasure to turn the conversation over to Larry Hall.
Thank you, Hillary. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you for spending an hour of your afternoon with us today, talking about cloud computing and technology. Just a minute about my company, Trillium. What we do here at Trillium is we provide a lot of transaction advisory services to small and mid-sized, primarily technology companies that service the global hospitality, hotel, and travel industries. We do a lot of work with mergers, acquisitions, and venture capital, and a lot in and around strategic planning. I serve on a number of boards for these companies and have a lot of fun doing it. Which is giving me a hard, no, here we go. I think we're back. Great. Thank you. So my perspective today is going to be coming to you from really that perspective, how the industry that we're all in came of age in cloud computing. I'll begin by saying there's still a lot of confusion about the cloud out there. And what I mean by that are really several items, one of which are terms. So you may have seen terms like IaaS, which means infrastructure as a service, and PaaS, and that means platform as a service. Those two items really apply to companies that build products that are consumed by the hotel industry or the hospitality industry. What we really focus on in our industry is this service called SaaS, or software as a service. That means a company is turning to a customer and saying, I'm going to provide you with all the technical resources, the software services, and price the system for you. So you can buy the use of this application as a service instead of buying it as a license, a traditional license. There is, though, some words of caution here because I think the cloud, quote unquote, the cloud is really overused in our industry and somewhat confusing. And for this reason, I've seen companies out there that have gone out to our industry, sold products and services saying they're in the cloud, and really what they are is someone's server sitting in a closet in some office somewhere. That's really not the cloud. That's really remote computing and, frankly, a dangerous arrangement at that. So the message I want to leave here for you about this confusion is just to make sure that when you as a potential buyer of cloud services that you really understand what they mean or what that provider means to you, means when they say we're in the cloud. Companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google and others provide cloud services, and they're large global public cloud operations that are well respected and secure and so forth. And that's not always the case when companies turn to the industry and sell their products. So kind of lesson here is make sure you understand what you're buying and making sure any provider to you who says they're in the cloud can articulate very clearly what that really means. So what I found in our industry is really, quite interesting in that over the last, 4 to 5 years, maybe going out 6 years, our industry's really come of age in terms of its cloud. And by that I mean, we go back 5 years and, talking to a number of the major brands and large hotel companies, management companies, and so forth around the world, many of them were initially skeptical of the cloud. they weren't sure about things like security. They weren't sure about network reliability and so forth. Even though the benefits were understood of cloud computing, there really was this reluctance or skepticism. But I would tell you, over the last 5 years, our industry has come of age. We've accepted the cloud as the platform of choice for our industry, and I have seen major hotel companies go from skepticism to mandates in just a very short period of time. So it's very comforting and good to know that our industry has really accepted cloud computing as its platform of choice. In a number of instances, particularly when I look at my prior life at Springer Miller Systems, we've had hotel companies turn to us and say, we're mandating that our suppliers, our technical suppliers, bring their applications and only deploy on the cloud going forward. You sometimes hear the term above property or off property. That all really means the same thing, it's in the cloud. Hotel companies want to get hardware off-prem, and the cloud is the platform to do that. So it's very, very comforting to see our industry kind of adopt cloud computing very quickly and fully. And the reason they did that are the compelling value proposition here. And what I put up on this slide here is some of the things you've heard already, that there are some very obvious benefits and then some really, really good benefits. So let me just run through these with you quickly. Clearly when there's a cloud deployment of an application, there's much less hardware that needs to be put into the property. That means a server generally doesn't need to be there, as well as other pieces of technology. All that goes up into the cloud and is provided through some data service. So that lowers the cost of hardware. Ease of installation is also a big one. And what's interesting about ease of installation, oftentimes in installations, the services of installation, support, training, those kinds of things generally cost about 50% of the total cost of a traditional PMS system. And so when you can lower hardware costs, you can also reduce the cost of the implementation process, so things are installed much easier. And that also translates to lower costs, lower capital costs. But the offset is operating costs increase. So there's actually a shift from capital to operating expenses inside the accounting functions of hotels. But on the right side of the screen here, there are some things that I just think are really cool about what the cloud has brought to, particularly to our industry. One of which is this notion of user experience, that many of the cloud applications today have a new contemporary user experience or look and feel. And that's much more conducive to the way people work today and interact with technologies than some of the kind of legacy on-premise property management systems that have been around for 30 plus years. So the user experience has greatly increased. Feature velocity. This is the ability for vendors to add capabilities, add features, and deploy them very quickly. Because the cloud affords a much different, much easier platform in which to build things, features are delivered more frequently to the end user, which is terrific. So we see more innovation coming to applications that support the hotel industry because of the cloud and because of the cloud platform. There's also this notion of lower switching costs. It used to be that when a hotel bought a PMS system, a traditional legacy on-premise system, it would be there for 8 to 10 years because they had to recoup their initial investment. But today, with cloud computing being much lower in terms of initial capital costs and cost shifting to operations, they can move between systems much easier. And that's a better environment for everyone to be in when switching costs are much lower. And then probably the most important thing I would say the cloud brings is this notion of increased integration. It's far easier for vendors to integrate their products via the cloud than traditional on-premise deployments. And what that means is we're seeing a lot more integration, deeper types of integration, and many more capabilities that are brought to the properties than we've ever seen, certainly when you compare it to a traditional on-premise deployment of property management systems. And they're not without their risk. Cloud deployments are not without some degrees of risk. Network reliability being probably one of the biggest. I recall one story I'll share with you. We were working with a company. They basically had a mid-market property, market segment property, and we talked to them about network reliability in their location, the fact that sometimes the network does go down. And their comment back to us was, we know it goes down on occasion, but it always comes back, and I can run my property just fine manually for 30 minutes, maybe to an hour. And so the idea of network reliability or unreliability is real, and when networks go down, you generally lose your application, but in most locations around the world, they generally come back. But it is something to note. Sometimes companies will look to put in fallback facilities or backup facilities or dial-up facilities as a fallback measure, but most often network reliability is very sound and it's not an issue. The other point I want to make here, just as a kind of what we call the dirty little secret of SaaS computing, and that is that the financial model not only changes for the users of cloud computing who buy those products under a SaaS model, but the vendor, the technology provider, their financials also change. And so it's important to kind of pay particular attention to vendor viability when one is buying products from a SaaS provider or for a cloud provider, because oftentimes the economics and the viability and financial strength of the vendor isn't necessarily obvious. So it's just a notion, a point I'd like to put out there that these vendors that provide cloud services will come and go regularly, and obviously you don't want to be stuck there using a product from a vendor that may have a weak financial condition. And that really points to these last two bullets here, that anytime cloud services are purchased, really need to pay close attention to terms and conditions, making sure that not only are items like data and your own data is secure, but if a user does decide to change vendors at some future date, that they can actually get their data back from that vendor. So there are a lot of things that changed in the world of cloud computing that I would say that for the most part the industry hasn't quite caught up to yet. And they're getting better at it, but there are some things to pay attention to when properties move from a traditional on-premise solution to a cloud-based solution. And just the summary points here for you. Know your vendor and what you intend to buy and how you intend to buy it. That's kind of an obvious statement, but it's worth repeating as we enter into the world of cloud computing. Get your right agreements in place. The type of agreement that you need in place for a SaaS provider of cloud services is very different than you'd use for one that delivers on-prem or traditional server-based solutions. And the good news here, our industry has fully embraced the cloud as a platform of choice. There's no going back here. Our industry kind of flipped the switch one day and said, we're all in on the cloud, and that's a great thing because that, as we've discussed here, promotes innovation, provides great economic benefit and an additional operational benefit to properties. A lot of compelling reasons to move to the cloud, and what I like to say, some really compelling reasons to move to the cloud. And so, by and large, it's all good, the benefits that cloud computing brings to our industry, although, it's not without some risk, which really means kind of educate your team if you're making a purchase decision here. And some of that education might be something as simple as recognize that when the network goes down, we may lose our system for a little while, but the system will come back. But again, I think the benefits of cloud computing so far outweigh those risks here that I think the cloud computing platform is just terrific for our industry and provides a lot of innovation, creativity, and new capabilities that just didn't exist before. So kind of in conclusion, I want to thank you for your time. I really enjoyed sharing some thoughts with you. I hope you gained some benefit from it. If anyone wanted to reach out to me for any reason, either get some clarification on some points or what have you, this is my contact information. And again, thank you very much. And so let me pass it off to Susan.
Thank you so much, Larry. That was a great wealth of information. So now closing out presenters, last but certainly not least, is Susan Ghemawat. So turn it over to Susan.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Hillary. And good afternoon, everybody. And really got excited at the end of Larry's speech there, really focusing on innovation and integration. Because as a revenue management professional, my world is constantly changing and evolving, whether that's the distribution world, the tools, the systems, the pricing, and especially the customer behavior and how customers want to interact and what they want to do on property and how they make their purchase decisions. So to me, that's a great segue into my part of the presentation, so thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit more generically from a high level too, but I'll start off by giving a little more background about the company I work for, Hospitality Ventures Management Group. We are a franchise management company as well as ownership company with 35 hotels throughout the whole United States. Most of them are branded with the large brands, Marriott's, Hilton's, Hyatt's, some Indigos, and then we also have a few smaller independent hotels in development and recently opened, and we have very active investors, so we're looking to get a little bit more active in the independent space as well. And in that space, I think that's a very easy, logical one for cloud-based computing. But as Larry mentioned, the whole industry has really started to adopt this, and quite a couple of the bigger brands are really moving forward with cloud-based PMSs as well. So it's a really exciting time in the industry from my perspective. And then the last point about my company is we have a focus on revenue excellence and innovation, so just really trying to be at the forefront of systems and computing and technology and data and analysis and trying to bring things together across a lot of everything, whether it's the operations or the financial side or the customer guest side. So this is a great starting point here. So has anybody ever felt like this, wanting to bring your own laptop into work because the one at work, your hands are tied? And we actually have some people in our company that have 2 different computers. Maybe that they're supporting 2 different brands. One of them is requiring them to be on a later version of Internet Explorer. One of them is requiring them to be on an older version of Internet Explorer. Or maybe there's 2 different VPNs that are conflicting, and you spend, what feels like hours of your day sometimes talking to the network help desk. And so to me, that's kind of an initial starting point of why I love anything in the cloud. It gets rid of a lot of that headache and a lot of that conflict, and really lets you focus on being a productive worker and minimizing some of those frustrations and headaches that you can trip across. And then, does anybody not want to be this? This would be fantastic if you could sit there and work all day at the beach on your computer. I have 10 direct reports in my revenue management organization. I don't think they're actually sitting right now at the beach with their computer, but I think they all want to be. But they all are remote, and they live across the country. They do not live in the cities where their properties are, and a lot of that is because of the tools and technology that they are able to tap into. But that does come with some limitations. On the PMS side, when there are server-based, on-property server-based PMSs, they could be having to get special software downloaded or permissions or VPNs, and that can come with a lot of headache, and that can come with a lot of disruption on really managing revenues and rates while not necessarily seeing that full holistic picture of what the real inventory looks like. Larry touched on this as well, to just having that flexibility with the PMS, that you're really able to tap into people throughout the organization, throughout the hotel, that are able to tap into that, whether you're in housekeeping, maybe like Steve mentioned, to the honeymoon, you could tap into that and maybe provide them a special offer, a cocktail, or a discount to try to engage them and become more of that loyal guest. And what you ultimately really want is that positive review and really having that voice across the internet that everybody's looking at now before they make their purchase decision. I don't know if anybody on the call's had a chance, but the Marriott in Charlotte is what they view to be their live test lab, and they've done an incredible job with it, kind of taking that old traditional front desk, people standing behind it, there's a line, and you walk in and people greet you and they come walk you over to a pod. But it's a very active, warm, engaging, conversational experience, and that, I think, is one example of where the world is going. and where a cloud-based PMS can really help make the employees that mobile employee, where they can really spend the time engaging with the guest and not staring behind the screen where you wonder what exactly are they doing. And I think that we'll continue to see major enhancements and involvements throughout the industry on giving people that flexibility and really having that time and that productivity to focus on that customer guest engagement. More and more hotels are also testing cloud-based applications, and you can be sitting at the pool and just ordering what you want, and it comes and gets delivered to you. You may see this at baseball games, same thing, where you're just typing it in on your own phone. Hey, I'd like a hot dog and a beer, and it gets delivered to you without having to have that traditional back and forth someone behind a counter. Steve touched on this as well. With all the cloud-based computing, it gives a lot more flexibility. With that does come some expectations of being available more. But I think there's trade-offs between both of those. The flexibility does give you that opportunity to be on your feet and maybe be able to leave work a little earlier but still be able to keep your eye on something. I had one of my employees on my last organization in revenue management. He would bring his iPad to the gym, and we were using a cloud-based revenue management vendor called Duetto, and he would be on the treadmill checking his rates at night. The revenue management world has become more and more dynamic, and people are changing rates in evening hours and over weekends, and really it's become so competitive, people are constantly trying to steal that last little bit of share. And so having that ability to be able to just keep your eye on something or to just double check, is somebody really discounting $5 or $10 overnight and back by the next morning when you're up and running, it's back to where you thought it was the whole time. So it gives you a lot of that flexibility and really being able to kind of keep your eye on what's going on out there. And another point was touched on too is just the cost-effective side of it. Certainly, once you've paid down that initial investment, the cloud-based computing can definitely be a much more cost-effective way of going. And we did switch to cloud-based PMS in my last company, and almost every hotel ended up being a cost-effective improvement, with the exception of maybe one that had just bought some hardware. But there are a lot of ways that you can work around that as well. And then to get more in line with my initial introduction in terms of innovation and integration, for me, having the CRS, the PMS, the OTAs, the revenue management system, all having that same information is essential to good, strong, profitable results. If any of these things aren't really communicating well, then we're not going to optimize our revenues. And having these systems that are in the cloud really does allow for faster, better integration. We had an example of a hotel that we just recently took over this summer, and after a couple months, it came to light that we had 20 rooms out of order, out of a 300-room hotel. And we all were like, how could we not know that? How could we have had that many rooms out? And it really boils down to the integration. Not all the tools and systems are really talking to each other. So overnight we ordered 10 PTAC AC units and fixed, bought some beds and fixed a couple of the other issues. But that's really critical, especially to a hotel that was having sellouts a couple nights a week. And so having that computer-based system to really have everything synced and easy access so everybody knows exactly what's going on. It's not just operations knowing this or revenue knowing that, but it's a holistic conversation is essential to really maximizing revenues. And another thing that really has a lot of opportunity, generally speaking, in the industry, is understanding more about how many rooms you do have available. So selling those early arrivals, late checkouts, it's becoming more pervasive, not just in airport hotels or resorts, but you can see this in a lot of traditional business markets too. For a little bit more, tell somebody they can have a 2 or 3 or 4 p.m. checkout. People are willing to pay that, and that can become more flexible, not just necessarily a half-day rate and you get X hours. And you can have that flexibility of negotiating that with the individual guest as well. So really having that information in the PMS to know exactly how many rooms you have cleaned or how many more rooms you're going to, or how much time you need to clean rooms will tell you how you can sell those early arrivals and those late checkouts. And then another great opportunity across the industry is upselling and really understanding how many rooms across your different room types you have. Ideally we'd love to sell the most expensive rooms at the highest rates furthest out, but we all know that's not really how it works. So being able to truly understand the rooms that you have available and having access to your front desk agents to encourage those upsells last minute is essential to really adding a lot to the bottom line. And then we also had a lot of success in my last company about trying to minimize the number of room types. As people are purchasing more and more through cell phones and mobile devices and iPads, that they don't want to look through 20 room types on the initial purchase. They want to be able to see just kind of a couple basic room types and then add on other features afterward. And there's a philosophy in pricing too, where generally speaking people like a cheaper lead-in rate, but then are much more likely to convert with add-on additional products. So I've seen a lot of good success with, maybe the room has a fireplace or balcony or even a partial ocean view room that's not a really great improvement, but enough that you might be able to get $10 or $20. So those kinds of things, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that PMS to help merchandise and help that front desk agent make that last minute additional revenue, as well as extra person charges. So, certainly depending on the market, and Europeans are typically more used to paying for additional people in the room. If you have a lot of European guests, it's easier to charge more for that. But having good, accurate information will help you know that that's an opportunity for you. And another great potential area to leverage further in the PMS is really that guest information. There's so much information that could be maintained and leveraged in a revenue enhancing and customer service engaging way. And the PMS and having great information in there and having that information being easy to input and update and view and access is very important. And that can be leveraged through your pre-stay or post-stay emails. Very easy to entice people to add in. Maybe you have a restaurant. I've seen great success before where in your pre-stay email, hey, we'll give you $50 credit for $40 in the restaurant or in the spa or golf. Can really get some good active engagement. But you don't want to spam your guests. You want to make sure it's something relevant to their experience and what they're looking for. And then in the future you can leverage that as well for offers trying to get people to come back or at least refer you to other people. And then obviously there's all kinds of research out there across the industry talking about how customer service scores are critical to revenue, and there's many different numbers I could say and quote. It all depends on the type of hotel and where your customer service score is coming from and going to. But we all know that that's a direct correlation. Bad customer service scores on TripAdvisor or any of the other review sites will definitely impact your negative revenues. So having great information in the PMS, engaging with the guests, trying to address any issues in-house long before you give them a chance to complain out in the public space. And then in closing, I just kind of want to talk a little generically about the industry and where it's going. Larry did a great job touching on where we're at right now, but really the future, artificial intelligence. We've got robots working in hotels now. In Japan, you have one that looks like a dinosaur that's checking people in. You've got some that are cleaning rooms. You have some that are delivering items, whether it's towels or lost things to the rooms, concierge services, language services. So really the hotel industry is, in my mind, ripe for dramatic change, and all that's going to be tied to technology and really being able to be active, engaged in the cloud, integration across systems. Everybody needs to be ready and engaged for what the future will hold. And in that, here's my contact information. I'm happy to have anybody reach out, and I can answer more questions or have more active engagement. And I'm open to answering questions now as well. And I'm going to actually pass over to Charlie.
Thank you so much, Susan. Great job. And thank you again to Larry and Steve as well for their informative and thought-provoking presentations. So before we begin our Q&A, I would like to welcome a few words from our sponsor. So here is Charlie Green, Director of Product Management for SkyTouch Technology. Charlie?
Thank you so much, Hillary, and thanks to Steve and Mary and Susan. I think this has been illuminating conversation. We appreciate everybody on the phone call and happy to be able to sponsor the session today. You know, here at SkyTouch, being in the cloud is more than just putting boxes in a data center that is not at the hotel. We really think that, you know, our product was actually born to be in the cloud. We've not converted something to go there. And as part of that, people expect, beyond the technology itself and where the hardware or software lives, that the cloud means easy and intuitive. And our customers tell us that we've hit that mark. One of the things that Steve mentioned, you can kind of see in this picture, is our little community board that really enables communication across the property from team members from shift to shift. That really is key to being able to use the tools of the cloud and power your hotel. We also, of course, and I think Steve mentioned this as well, believe in how do we enable your business to do better from a performance perspective. So our automatic set it and forget it rate management, for many hotels, that really helps drive additional room rates and is helping them with having eyes on their business that they're not necessarily seeing every day, and really helps enable hotels that may not have the capabilities or the resources of a full-on revenue management system, and we can help with that. So we really think that the cloud is part of that process as well. Always on, always there for you. And then finally, we're hotel people at heart, so we believe firmly in our 24/7 support model. We have a help desk that, of course, is manned every minute of every day of the year. We're located here in Phoenix, Arizona, so everybody is always happy, and of course with the sun. And obviously performance of that desk is very important to us too. We really believe in our first contact resolution, so if you call, you're getting an answer. We want to make sure that is happening as much as possible, and think we do a pretty good job of that when we look at our customers, and their satisfaction is very high. So we hope that you've enjoyed the presentation, and if you're interested in seeing how the cloud can power your PMS, please come see us at skytouchtechnology.com. You can book a demo, and we'll have one of our great team members take you through the application and show you how it can enable your business. With that, I will turn it back over to Hillary.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And now we are going to do a Q&A. So we do have some questions coming in. And this first question, I really open up to any of our speakers, because we've got a couple in that asked, is cloud replacing the present Synix CRS system? Or what can cloud do that hotels aren't achieving with Synix? So would anybody be able to answer that question?
So this is Susan. I've worked with Nexus in a previous job, and so Nexus, the CRS side is definitely cloud-based today, which allows you to load rates and inventory and have direct connectivity with not just Expedia, Booking.com, but hundreds of different online travel agents. And then they do have a PMS system as well. So it's just a question about different functionality and features and ease of use and cost and that sort of thing. So Nexus has a couple of different products.
And I just chime in here too, Susan, and just add to that point. The way to think about cloud computing at its most basic level is where the computing takes place. And so you shouldn't necessarily think of, does cloud kind of replace the technology or replace a particular vendor's product? It's really a function of how that particular vendor deploys that product. It just so happens that deployment in the cloud opens up a world of capabilities that were difficult to achieve in the past. So I don't think there's a replacement question so much as it is how these vendors like Nexus, deploy their technology.
Okay, thank you. Our next question actually came up during your part of the presentation, Larry, so I'm going to direct this question to you. How would you differentiate between a data center hosted web application versus a true cloud application?
It's a great question. So, in some respects, a data center that is hosting an application would be considered, the quote-unquote, the cloud today. Again, it gets back to the point that the use of the term cloud is very confusing. If you kind of drill down a level, you get into this notion of, is that a private data center? I mean, it's run by the company that, you may be employed by, and for that company's exclusive use, or is it a data center that would be considered, a public data center or public cloud? So, in many respects, a remote data center would be considered kind of loosely the cloud today. But you really have to drill down and get into some very technical details and kind of some esoteric arguments as to whether or not it's really the cloud or you've simply moved the servers off site. And that's where a lot of the confusion comes in. So it's a good question, and there's really no easy answer. Even if I had a few more hours to spend on it, there's no easy answer to answer that question. So I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into an answer.
No, that's great. Thank you. All right, our next question I'm going to actually direct to Steve as a hotel general manager. If, let's say, a hotelier has not used a PMS cloud-based system before, and if they have concerns about security issues in terms of, let's say, they're checking guests in with, floating staff and doing it on a tablet, are there issues of security, with the information that's being shared? And, security is such an important topic. So I just wanted to know, Steve, do you have anything to kind of say in response to that, since you do use a cloud-based PMS?
I would say with definitely on your front desk computer, just make sure that you have the best firewall that you possibly can, that it's active, and then having a good security system on there, and checking for viruses on a monthly basis. When I use, like on our tablets and stuff at home, you just want to make sure that you exit out of it whenever you're done. Don't leave the application running 24/7, and only use devices that, like if you have a laptop, try to use only the laptop that you're going to use there for the hotel itself. I wouldn't use like all kinds of other devices, just because in today's day and age it's easy to hack into things. But I know, like with SkyTouch and then our front desk computer and stuff like that, it is extremely hard for them to get any kind of information out of there. It's all encoded and encrypted, so it would be hard for them to access it. But in today's day and age, everyone's getting better and better with computers. So I would just recommend to definitely have your firewall up, and to let your associates, even though they have access to this at home, technically at home I would never think that an associate would need to access your PMS system. That would be more for the general manager. And I utilize one tablet that I have is just for hotel use. That way I can put a little bit more money into making sure that I have that secured so that none of my guests' information is out there to the public.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm not sure if anyone else, any of our speakers have anything else to add to that subject. Otherwise, we'll move on to our next question. Okay, so our next question, which I think might be one of our last here, is, and again, I open this up to everyone, can a PMS really help a hotelier with achieving guest loyalty? A cloud-based PMS.
This is Charlie at SkyTouch. I'd like to answer that. We, of course, being a PMS provider, think we play a really vital role in ensuring have data about your guests at your disposal. And we developed some very specific features to help drive loyalty, which tends to be addressed by some of the larger organizations. The larger hotel companies of the world spend quite a bit of capital on their loyalty programs. We see it as something that our independent properties also need. And so we built some features specifically around how do you recognize and wow your guests that are most loyal to you. And so we have a number of features that really can help you with that, between messaging on folios and messaging at check-in and on your reservation confirmations, various pieces that hotels are really at control to be able to do.
And Charlie, I'd like to chime in on that point as well. You know, I think what's interesting about that question, you know, cloud versus, you know, an on-premise PMS, is that with cloud computing, the ability to integrate a PMS to other systems and create additional capabilities that can really further a property's desire to increase loyalty is increased significantly through cloud computing, because the development environment and the technology environment is so much more flexible. And, you know, a good example would be, you know, how a PMS system might integrate to a loyalty system, or integrate to you know, mobile applications and other services that you can extend to a guest that you just couldn't achieve if a PMS system were deployed in a traditional on-premise deployment model. So I think kind of the way to answer that question is that cloud computing opens up a world of innovation capabilities and services that didn't exist before, which can drive a lot of activity right toward that notion of loyalty.
Well, great. Thank you. And that is about all the time we have for today. So before we close out the webinar, a couple of last-minute items. First, I'd like to announce our prize winner. And the winner of the $250 American Express gift card is Jim Packett from Canal Park Lodge. So congratulations. You'll be contacted after the webinar with more information about how to claim your prize. And since we are out of time, I would like to thank our wonderful panel again: Steve Baggett from Cobblestone Hotel and Suites in Newton, Illinois, Larry Hall from Trillium Services Group, and Susan Ghemawat from HVMG. I would also like to thank Hotel Management for presenting this webinar, and to each of you in the audience for participating today. I hope you found the conversation inspiring. As a reminder, the webinar has been recorded, and tomorrow you will each receive an email with instructions on how to download the presentation and rewatch it for future reference. So thank you again for your time and participation. Goodbye, and enjoy the rest of your day.